Ukraine continues to expand its control of Kursk, but is it planning on invading more Russian oblasts? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's get into it. Okay, so the reporting on this situation is really, really vague, in part because the Ukrainian forces are maintaining very tight operational security about where they're operating. But it seems like different reports are saying different things, but you can see here that it's fairly clear that a lot of the fighting is wide-ranging at this point in and around Kursk, with live UA map confirming at least up to Sudza Ukrainian control. But this hasn't been updated in at least a day and change. And you can see that the Russians are operating as though the Ukrainians are much closer, with them shutting down construction, evacuating parts of the Kursk power plant, as well as reports that a lot of power has actually been shut down in a lot of these towns. So it's a sign, again, that the Russians may be feeling a lot more pressure than was initially than is shown just on this map itself. You can also see, of course, this is the large Russian column near Rylisk that got absolutely hammered by Ukrainian forces. Again, a sign that the Ukrainians were quite prepared for Russia to try to funnel reinforcements to this area. But when we look at, again, different maps are saying many different things, right? Here's one from 2 days ago showing the Ukrainians, again, expanding comfortably through Sudza, as well as pushing hard to the north. There's also, of course, some... let's see if we can pull this up here. Some other reporting. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for here. There we go. Okay, so this looks even more updated than what we've seen previously. Again, this is from today, with Ukrainian forces purportedly entering and partially controlling more settlements like Snagost and Plekhovo in Kursk. But you can see just sort of the rapid expansion of this offensive in just a few days. And that, I think, is one of the key takeaways here, is that what is, in terms of total area seized, you may think, oh, this is like good, this is a lot, but what you have to remember is this has happened over the course of about the last 72 hours. Russia has made comparable gains here in and around Ocheritina, but it's taken months. This has been the better part of 2024's effort, and the Russians have taken massive casualties to do it, and you can see that they are still driving hard, right? They're not pulling their forces from this offensive effort. In some ways, they're doubling and tripling down on it, continuing to drive into Ukrainian lines, which means that they may not be diverting some of their best troops, at least, to stabilize this situation in Kursk. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the other directions that Ukraine might be pushing. But first, of course, if you feel like you need to push back against the challenges you're facing, you don't need to invade your neighbor's turf. Instead, you may just need a little extra caffeine. That's why I created Strike Gum. Oh my God, if I don't drop it. I'm too hyped, guys. I'm too hyped. Strike Gum. It's the better energy drink alternative. Zero sugar, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece. This one bad boy contains as much caffeine as a Red Bull or an Amp Energy, but none of the sugar, plus 100 milligrams alpha GPC for further cognitive clarity. Basically, the inspo for this came from my time in Afghanistan when I had to carry around literal energy drinks called Rippets, government issue energy drinks, if just to get the caffeine I needed on patrols. And if you've ever cracked open a 110-degree energy drink that was in your pocket for 8 hours, then drank it, feeling that warm, carbonated, taste like medicine, it was just absolutely revolting. and it was the only way I could get caffeine. So obviously that horrible experience traumatized me, but my trauma is your benefit because Strike Gum solves all of those problems. You can put it in your pocket, put it in your glove box, put it in your gym bag, and then when you need a caffeine boost, you just chew it. It's a refreshing mint flavor. It doesn't taste like medicine like every energy drink does. And best of all, it's made in the USA and veteran owned. So check us out at strikegum.com. You definitely want to get the 5-pack. That is your best option in terms of efficiency. You can get a pack for your glove box, a pack for your office, your gym bag, and it's going to let you stay energized throughout the day. So I'm going to link to that in the description. Thanks to everybody that's picked up their Strike Gum. Okay. Now, there's 2 reports I thought were really interesting. The first is in Tetkino. This is 40 kilometers due west of kind of the furthest reported limit of advances of Ukrainian forces, this town of Snagost. And you could see Snagost, there's rumors that Ukrainian artillery is starting to fire near Tetkino. And you can see that they're reported that, of course, Russian artillery forces pushing back, which is kind of unusual. And that purportedly this may actually be, it could be Ukrainian counter battery fire, simply targeting Russian batteries that have fired on Ukrainian positions. But there have been other rumors that jamming, a lot of Russian units are reportedly experiencing some level of jamming around Tetkino. So it's possible that Ukraine may be trying to conduct some kind of link up or encirclement if they push into Tetkino, where they're able to exert a lot more pressure on Russian forces that might be operating here in the border. It would be pretty devastating. You can see if you could get into Tetkino and rope off this major highway here, the 38K40, it would allow them to connect with the forces in Snagost and basically take all the Russian forces along this border and leave them trapped. So it would be dramatic if it could happen. Again, I'm not super confident that this is the case because it would require a fair amount of combat troops. And for Ukraine, Russia's likely going to know, right? Ukraine seems to have effectively deceived Russia in this initial push, but I don't think it's going to work twice. But that said, of course, I never discount Russia's ability to miss the obvious. But that's not the only report we've gotten. There's also been video that's leaked of, looks like Freedom of Russia Legion folks operating in in Belgorod. So again, a sign that perhaps these guys are targeting even more areas, even more attempting to ramp up the pressure on Russia. Now, when we look on the map, right, you can see Belgorod is actually right here. So again, quite a ways south. But this may be part of, again, an effort. I think this may look more like a river. You can see that in front of Poros here is a lot of forest, and we know that Russian forces, once they dig into a forest, they're very hard to dislodge. They're very good at holding these kind of defensive positions. So this doesn't look like an area where you're going to see a ton of Ukrainian massed armor or big advances, but what it will do is force Russia again to make tough choices, to sit there and go, okay, well, we can reinforce units fighting in Sudza, but we also have to at least have some units still here in the Gorevoron area. And you see how increasingly Ukraine's goal is to force Russia to take its troops and spread them ever thinner. And that, I think, is a core part of this Ukrainian strategy here, to thin the Russian troops, force them to make bad choices, and occupy the maximum total area of Russian territory, to do literally just like they're doing with their prisoner exchanges, where they capture Russian soldiers to then go and exchange them for Ukrainian soldiers. The same thing could happen with territory. I think Ukraine wants to enter the negotiating table with a big chunk of Russian territory that they can use to barter away or barter back their own territory. And it's honestly kind of a brilliant strategy. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to the Colonel tier members, Bill Collier, Robin Colburn, Gaius Marining, Eugenia Cuesta, Chris Gorsuch, Fran Zacharias, and AR90. Couldn't do it without you guys, as well as all of our lieutenant tier folks. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.